Hello everyone, it's Ketri here, and in today's video, I would like to talk one last time about the prototype I've made before releasing content about the game itself. When I was building this prototype, I've made countless errors that I would like to show you. I think that learning from my experience will save you hours of frustration and help you create better games. So make sure to listen to this video in order to do not make the same mistakes. So number 1, test your UI on different screens. It's not because your game is running well on the Godot editor that it will run well when you will export the project. You will encounter a lot of issues, and one of the most common ones is the UI. Usually, when you build your game, you do not play a lot with the Windows size. However, when you will export it, you will have to deal with different size screen, size resolution, operating systems, and things like that. When I was testing my project from the Godot editor, everything was working perfectly. However, I wanted to also test my game from my Windows laptop as well. This is something that I did at the end of the process, and oh my god, my game was totally different. In other words, when you export your project, it can be different in full screen mode, on different operating systems, or when you play with the resolution. So that's why I recommend you to test your UI by exporting your project with different screen resolutions, different operating systems, and different screen format. Moreover, I also recommend you to use all these Godot nodes that helps you to create your UI. Do not try to place UI elements by hand, otherwise you will notice that it will not work. Godot created multiple nodes to make sure that it will create a nice UI on different screens, and you should use them. If you place elements by hand, it will never be the same on another screen. Number 2, having hard-coded strings. This one can sound irrelevant if you are just building a prototype or a very small game with a limited scope. But if your project becomes big enough, you will notice that it's not very efficient to write strings such as the path of a node or something by hand in your code or in the UI directly. For example, when I was managing my level scenes, I was directly writing the name of the scenes on the UI or in the code. And this is a terrible idea, because if I change the name of the scene or if I move it in another folder, everything will be broken. Instead, you can use export packet scene in a script in order to reference a scene directly, and whenever you will move or rename the scene, it will keep the reference of this scene. And you'll notice that it's not only valid for scenes, but also any kind of assets. And that gives us our third point, managing node connections. When building a game in Godot, you will have multiple nodes. Each node has different features or properties, and they will need to communicate with each other in some way. That can be done through signals or direct references in the code. When all these nodes communicate with each other all over the place, it can become very chaotic. If you move or delete one node, everything can be broken because you don't know what is using what. So as usual in software engineering, everything depends on the context. However, if there is one guideline that I recommend you to follow, is make sure that only the parents know about the children. In other words, you cannot have one child that communicates with the child of another parent. Usually, you will have the parent node that will communicate or listening to the children. Just be careful, do not fall into the signal bubble trap. This is what happens when most of your nodes are just bubbling signals from their children. To avoid that, you can use different strategies such as dependency injection or the signal bus pattern. So number 4, having a state machine. When I was building my prototype, I put everything related to the controller inside one script. Because of that, the script was really huge, and after that it was really hard to modify or add new feature inside the code. So what you could possibly do is split your controller into a finished state machine. I won't dig too much into the state machine, but basically you will split your big controller into different small states that your player will have. If you would like to know more about the state machine, I will put a link directly in the description. And by the way, we're currently 152 subs on this channel. That will be awesome if we could reach 160 by the end of this video. So please consider subscribing. That will be awesome. So number 5, duplicating scenes for convenience. Here is why it's potentially a bad idea. When I was building my game, I started by making the level 1. Then, when I wanted to create the level 2, what I did was simply to duplicate the level 1 and change a little bit the environment. I thought that it would be convenient because in the level 1, I had everything needed in order to just click on play and test the level. I thought that otherwise I would have to start from the menu and click on the level I want in order to have every component needed instantiated. But that was because I didn't know that Godot had a scene inheritance system. To make it simple, you will create a base scene that will have everything needed and common in every level, such as for example the UI, and then you can create a level starting from this base scene. The benefit of this method is that if you change something in the base scene, it will be modified in every inherited scene. Another way to have every level playable directly is to use autoload singletons, but that's just another method to do it, and this is not the one that I prefer. You probably won't escape singletons, but if you can avoid it, singletons are usually a very bad pattern that you would like to avoid in order to do not have a lot of dependencies in your code. So yeah, do not duplicate every scene like me. In my case, because I did not do that, if I had to change something in one level, I had to change it in every other level. So please, don't make the same mistake. Number 6. Use Godot resources more. For those who don't know, Godot resources are more or less the equivalent of scriptable objects in Unity. To make it simple, this is a wrapper around different kinds of data. They're easy to create and you should use them as much as possible. If we take again my character controller as an example, you will see that I had a lot of different parameters. Instead of having all these parameters, what I could have done is just have one Godot resources that I would call player stat, for example, and that would wrap every needed properties for my player controller. That way, my controller script would have been much cleaner because I would have only a reference to the player stat Godot resources. So if your game has different kind of enemies, you can easily create copies of your resources with different values. However, there is one kind of thing that you should not do with Godot resources. Number 7. Use the right format for your save files. In my prototype, the way I was dealing with save file was terrible. Let me explain. When a player finishes the level, it will save the score or time of the level in a save file. The name of the save file will be the name of the level. And in the menu, every button is unlocked if the previous level was finished. And to know if a level was finished, I just have to check if one save file exists or not. And that's a terrible way to do it. I was rushing at the end of the prototype and I just wanted to finish it. And that system is bad in multiple ways. Let me explain. First, to unlock a level, I just check if the previous level save file exists or not. But I don't check the content, so it could be anything. So that's okay because that's just a prototype, this is just a local game, there is no multiplayer, so there is no real reason to do that. But I think that I should have grouped everything into one single save file. Like there is no reason to have one save file per level. Even if Godot allows it, that's a terrible system. But the second issue with that is way more important. If you use Godot custom resources for your save file, you will have a huge security issue because anyone can add executable code inside your Godot resource. So what can happen is that if someone is sharing its own save file, you cannot check if it's safe or not. The YouTube channel GDQuest has made a video about it if you would like to know more about why it's a security issue and why it could impact your game. I will put a link in the description. In my case, I think I'm gonna go with a mix between Godot custom resources and JSON in order to manage my save files, but there are multiple ways to handle it. And that's it. I think we have reached the 7 issues that I've made and that you could potentially do in your game. I hope that it will be useful for you. I will probably learn a lot other things and encounter other issues when I will create my final game because right now it was just a prototype. So make sure to subscribe to this channel to follow this journey with me. I hope you enjoyed this video and see you next time.